through its memorization, your body will begin to use its inherent intelligence to find more efficient ways of accomplishing the same things. Now, this is very much not just a part of life, but a part of matter. If you see in the back of the room, there's a pendulum clock. If you take a row of pendulum clocks and put them on a single wall and start the pendulums flowing, and they're all going every which way, within 72 hours, all of the pendulums will be synchronized. Just like this. And the reason is, it's more efficient. The pendulums start to experience compression and resistance when they flow towards each other. And slowly, the molecular structure begins to realize that it's better to do it, and then pretty soon, and it takes 72 hours, and they're all the most efficient that they can possibly be. They're all synchronized. Now, that would be how humans live. As a matter of fact, that was how evolution was traveling up until the departure from the moment of now that began about 130,000 years ago. Because 130,000 years ago, we had developed enough of our frontal lobe of the brain that we began to store so much information that we had what we would call recall. We recalled that it appeared that the sun came up this morning, but gee, I remember that same thing happening yesterday. Your dog doesn't think like that. Your dog is in the present moment. But you vacate the present moment by thinking in memory. The moment you start thinking in memory, the polarity has to also occur. You have to start thinking in anticipation. And the fact that we spend the majority of our time either in memory or anticipation takes us out of our experience. When we are out of our experience, we don't realize the disharmony that we're actually involved in because we're not there. We're not present in the disharmony. We're off in memory or in anticipation. And so what has happened is that over the last 130,000 years, human evolution has vacated the moment and is no longer experiencing the experience. It's planning for the experience that we'll never have in the future. Because as you plan for the experience of the future, you won't be in the now when the future arrives. So even though you've planned and made all kinds of arrangements for it to take place in the best way possible, you don't show up. And therefore, you're always living in this sensation of the pattern that you have set up, the habit that you have lived in, and your structure of how you walk, how you sit, how the minor fibers in your body are working is disarranged. What we're doing here is we're saying, okay, we got that, we understand all that, and intellectually you have this euphoric sensation, now I understand, and you fall back into the pattern. You fall back into the posture. So even though you understood it, you had this euphoric sensation, you fall right back in it, and you're doing it as you were prior to the revelation. What we're saying is we want to disrupt that. Not just little disruption. We want to radically disrupt that. But we want to radically disrupt it every single day. And a radical disruption every single day will leave a deposit of a minor disturbance which will help to change you. And so we're going to go into this, we're going to create a practice that we will do every single day to create a radical. When I say radical, I don't mean that it's radical out here. I mean that it's radical in here, that you're using fibers, that you're shifting fibers, that you're changing breath patterns that are completely different. And they'll have a residual effect for a while, and then they will go back to the way it was. But as you stack these things on a daily basis, the residual effect lasts longer and longer and longer. And that's what we're looking for. Because it's through that we actually change the pattern, change the posture, change the habit. Now, for example, there's a great old saying called, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Intentions are inherent in the blood being produced in your left thigh. You've got the largest bone marrow in your body in the thigh bones, in the femur. And the bone marrow is what produces in your body about 2 million red blood cells per beat of the heart. That's a big number. But in volume, it's not a lot of blood, because they're so microscopically tiny. But that blood is being produced with the sensation of the beat of your heart. Can you take off the fridge? With the sensation of the beat of your heart. The attitude of the beat of your heart is pressing that blood and forming the blood's opinion. And the blood's opinion is going to circulate for the life of that blood cell, which is about 112 days. And then it's going to be disposed of. And the whole time that blood is circulating inside, the way in which it was formed, it's going to sustain. Now, the intention is glorious. The other side of the equation is your right thigh, the right leg, your motivation. If your motivation isn't equal to your intention, and not only equal to your intention, but equal in its outcome to your intention, then you live in frustration. And that's why the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Because here's what happens. Motivation is in the right. And above the right, I should have brought my pointer, but right in about here, this right here, this green line right here is your diaphragm. So right in here is your liver. And your liver is your body's heater. The liver, because of the tension, pressure, stress, and friction that the liver uses to decompose fat-soluble waste out of the blood, it creates a tremendous amount of heat. You know how the LED lights don't produce any heat? But the old incandescent bulbs produced a lot of heat? That's because in the incandescent bulbs, in order to produce that light, which is produced by heat, it's tension, pressure, stress, and friction producing that light. So you have all of this heat from your liver. Now that heat, if you're in a healthy state, will radiate up through your diaphragm into your heart. And then your heart will, the heart's will, it's hard to say this without making it a wrong word. The heart's will, not the heart will, but the heart's will, because the will does live in the heart. Your will to do something, which is connected to your intention, lives in the heart. But will is a combination of intention and motivation. You get this? Will is a combination of intention and motivation. And that motivation has to rise into the liver, and then the liver has to radiate up through the diaphragm to get to the heart. And the heart is leading your life. And the brain is calculating how to deal with the obstacles, etc. Now, what if you're a little insecure? What if you're a little doubtful? All throughout the last millions of years, life has been trained to be doubtful or insecure Because when we're doubtful, we can find danger. And when we find danger, danger won't get us. And so evolution needs to transform. We no longer have to be concerned with danger. We have to let go of that safety net. And we have to believe that we're capable of achieving without knowing where danger is. And immediately when that happens, the diaphragm loosens, the heat from the liver gets to the heart. Until that happens, the diaphragm is rigid, we breathe shallow, the heat from the liver doesn't get to the heart, it reflects back into the abdomen and increases our concern, which then verifies our concern, and the head brain kicks in and said, see, I knew I shouldn't relax, because you see, there are all these reasons that I've just discovered